BJ Counsel. I view the world through the lens of having been followed by a white clerk as a child while shopping in a five and dime. I'm a retired police executive and own UN50, which gives guidance on surviving interactions with police.
I'm Harmony Chavis, and I view the world through the lens of one of the most misunderstood and diverse generations in our nation's history. I'm a social worker and a believer of radical kindness and love as modalities of healing.
My name is Andrew Counsel. I view the world through the lens of a generational camera phone. I wake up as a black male and go to bed as a black male. I am surviving this never-ending court case we commonly call life in the best way I know how.
So welcome back to UN50. Really appreciate those of you who are just joining us for the first time. We are recording out of the Bull City, Durham, North Carolina. And UN50, for those of you that may not know, is a business that I go around and I teach people how to get home safely, how to safely interact with law enforcement. It primarily is for Black and brown folks, but the information is good for anybody that doesn't understand or how to exercise their rights when they interact with law enforcement. It was birthed in 2015, and the primary goal of this is I just need everybody, to include Black and brown bodies, to get home safely. So my co-host for this is that have been with me for about a year now is Harmony Chavis. Do you have anything that you want to say, Harmony?
Nope, and I was hoping you would just skip right over that. I don't know if you called me out. I was like, oh my God, please don't ask me.
Okay. Well, thank you for mumbling through. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you. So, and then Andrew Counsel. So anything you want to say, Andrew?
Nothing specific. Just glad to be here. Good to see y'all. Okay.
Everybody just seems like you're dragging today, man. You're making me I feel
like I have real jobs now, BJ.
It's what?
We work real jobs. We're not retired. So we have to get off work and then come here. So excuse us for not being as peppy as you are at 7 p.m. The rest of us been working all day. Okay.
Yeah, but I also know you don't work real hard. So don't even try.
Wow.
Because I know you.
I actually worked very hard today, and I said
today. I
was like, they actually want me to work now. I think it's time for me to get on LinkedIn. This is too much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys hanging in here with me. So we have today our guest who has a podcast, Boss Locks, and Walter Gaynor II. He's also said he's also known as Walt or Walter. He gave me permission to call him either one. So we'll probably flip back and forth on either one of those. So I welcome Walter to UN50.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really glad to be here. This is actually the first time I've done anything podcast-wise since April or May or something. So it's kind of cool. Y'all my jumping back in point. So.
Oh, wow. Really? Yeah.
So y'all get all the rest. My bad. But
yeah, I met Walter on a webinar for podcast persons. And I think that was it last year, Walter?
Yeah, that was November-ish.
Yeah.
Over November. Yeah.
I think so. And it was it's Podtown is the name of the young man who did that. And we were doing a webinar and he kind of liked what I was doing and he and I connected. But you've been doing podcasting longer than I. When did you start?
I started in 2017, but didn't really actually publish anything till 2020. But in between those times, I was definitely doing a lot of interviews, helping other people with their shows, kind of just crafting the idea, getting them to the launch point, and just really going hard on the back end. And then the pandemic actually kind of pushed me into launching and also accidentally publishing too soon. And then, it's out there. So now it's ready to go. But since then, been a actually published podcaster and now a professional podcast producer. So I'm all about this podcast life.
Nice. And I'm gonna let him talk about it, but I think I when I met him, I found it interesting. I listened to some of his podcasts, and basically you're dealing with, I think, as far as my old perspective, he's talking about Black folks and their locks and their hair and showing up at work authentically as Black and with all our stuff on our crown. And I kind of want you to talk about why that was a message you felt like you needed to. Why was that a platform? What about locks and our coming to work and being in any space that we're in, that our crown is important and we need to show up like that? Why was that a message that you felt like you had to do?
Yeah. It's actually funny because I didn't feel like I had to do it. It was kind of like an accident and people kind of peer pressured me. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, when I was in college, getting ready to graduate, so 2016, and about that time, so I had like probably been like 10 years in my lock, no, like 5 years into my lock journey. And around that time, people kind of went from like praising my hair to really starting to be like, okay, now it's time to graduate. So trying to get into that workforce, you got to look the part, you're going to have to cut the locks. And I was just like, no. I can't do that. But I also knew like at that same year, there was this huge court case, and I won't bore you with the details, but basically this lady was offered a position at a job. The only thing holding her back was that she had to cut her locks, but she was like, nah. So she took it all the way to the courts, went through multiple rounds, and eventually the judge ruled that basically the company was in their right to basically reject her as a candidate because of her hair.
Did you say the company was in their right?
Yeah, they were legally allowed to be like, no, we're not hiring you unless you cut your locks. So that was in the back of my mind. And also I didn't really know that many people who had locks and were doing their thing at work. In fact, I only knew 3 people. So this all started because I went to those 3 people to ask them questions. Basically, how did you do it? How can I do it? What kind of advice do you give? Like, because my first idea was just go to Google, like everyone else, just Google top 10 interview tips, get prepared and all that stuff. But I couldn't really find anything for Black people, but then also, Black people with locks. So I was just trying to ask people how they did it. And then eventually I was really pushed to start recording these and do something with it. So yeah.
Wow. So I think we will listen, and we're going to have the link for your podcast called I See Color. I think it's about 20 minutes. And that I sent that to my co-host to kind of get a feel for who you are and what you're standing for. The thing that stood out for me for that was that you couldn't name a Black CEO that had locks.
That's right. I was super heavy into Shark Tank back then. Still love that show. But basically, that's a show where these entrepreneurs go to these judges to try to get a huge investment. And they did have a Black person on there, Damon John, founder of FUBU. But that always stood out to me, and I'll probably never forget it because one of my friends who was talking to me about cutting my locks, he was like, all right, so I know you're trying to be like big time CEO and all that stuff. Name one Black person who's well-known CEO running the business who has locks and didn't start out from entertainment. At first, I was going to start naming some people, athletes, rappers, all these different people. Right. And he's like, didn't start off in entertainment. I was like, oh, hold up. I don't know about that. So, but that was like a huge lesson because it's super unfortunate that we have to rely on the entertainers to be our everything, our role models, all these things. Right. When in reality, they're just doing what they love to do on stage. Right. They're not necessarily trying to be leaders, lead the way, like show you this is example to be here and there. So, after that, I was like, okay, you know what? I might know anybody, but they're out there. I know they're out there. Yeah. So I started looking them up and I was like, oh, no, I can't find anyone.
Wow.
Nobody at all. So, that was kind of one of the early missions of it before I even thought podcast really. I was like, okay, I'm just going to highlight people with locks in high places just to show them some love and also show that, just show them as an example for the next wave coming up.
So I know you were doing a lot when I listened to early on when I was just trying to get to know what you were doing. You were talking to people who had locks, but they were doing different kind of entrepreneurship. I mean, so that was a way of you saying they're showing up authentically in their business and they have their locks. Is that, I think that like you said, you're giving them their moment to say it's okay to do that, and I think that's extremely powerful, especially with the Crown Act that's going on currently. And I know you said that athletes are doing what they're supposed to do. But we recently about the Olympics, right? How they got all jammed up about the bathing cap for female swimmers. They couldn't wear this bathing cap that would have supported their locks. I mean, it just kind of went like, really, y'all? I mean,
it's a whole mess. Yeah,
it's just
like
a mess.
so much out there.
It's not going to make them go any faster. So
Right.
why not let them put this cap on that's going to accommodate their hair? How did you? I mean, what were you thinking about when you saw? Did you? I'm sure you saw that. What did you think about that?
This is so crazy. So like, I didn't even like invest that much time into it. There are so many things going on with this Olympics that it's just like, yo, was it
Yeah,
always like this?
yeah.
Was it like always like, I only remember being like, go USA, we're killing it everywhere. But like, I didn't know about everything else that was going on. So like, now when I saw that, and then also like them trying to change the rules in gymnastics to make it more fair to everyone else, like this is, it's like they just continue to get it wrong each time. And
Yeah.
it kind of sucks that people who are there to, perform and compete have to also teach and defend and support the other people out there and do everything that's distracting from actually showing up to, help the US get gold or help the other countries, win.
Yeah.
It's like we're having to do everybody's job or also not allowed to do the job at the same time. It's really interesting. And people, I think when you think about things like hair all the time, so that's kind of some of the things I'm trying to help people understand. Like, yeah, it may seem small, but something so small has like a really huge impact. Like we see it examples of sports, and a lot of people are probably like, oh, suck it up, it's not a big deal. But it's like when you start to have negative associations with your own hair, that could like trickle into a whole bunch of things. You start having negative perceptions about who you are, how you look, how you show up. And then, it might not affect everybody but for a lot of people, it'll lead to a whole bunch of different, just self-hate, just not appreciating that, you just are great as you are.
Right.
And then it's not even just an internal thing. It can really affect everything else. Like just that one decision can affect, let's say they have kids, they don't necessarily love themselves. So the kids are probably going to start feeling some type of way about themselves as well, just not appreciating who they are without having to change themselves. Like it's a real whole trickle effect and just leads to continued generational trauma.
Yeah. I think, I want to kind of touch back, put it on law enforcement just a tad and not a lot, when we see Black folks or law enforcement, sometimes they're judged simply based on he got dreads, and he looks like, the hair, she has this stuff going on. And there's this, for some folks, there's this automatic, well, they're going to be a bad person or something like that. And it's just simply based on their hair. And where they are in that space. And so it's just like, for law enforcement, sometimes we got to stop. We just got to meet people where they are, no matter what it is they come to the space with. And having that conversation, like we just talked with a previous person, and we just need to be in that space with everybody, no matter what they come to the table with and how they come to. I know that when I was in high school and when I got I had Angela Davis hair. I had a big afro, but I ended up cutting it off because it wasn't who I was. It was just too much hair. Like Harmony has she has hair. She has the nice length of hair. But for me, and being a gay woman, I was like, I ain't really gonna be sitting in front of no mirror. And then it didn't represent who I was. Short hair represents me. That's how I want to be seen in the world. So yeah, this whole thing about the crown, your crown, how people view you simply because you haven't even opened your mouth and they're judging you based on what your head looked like.
Right.
And then you, like you said, I'm telling somebody that they cannot hire someone based on their hair that's just a lot. You guys got any comments for Walter?
I had a few or a question. Walter, you have locks, correct?
Yeah, I still actually. I might as well show them, talk about hair. Yeah. And I guess I lied when I said 5 years in 2016. I started them 2007. So
Right. Yeah.
Y'all want to do the math?
How long have you-
2007, and you thought you started it in 2016.
No, I was saying in 2016, I was like, oh, yeah, I had them for 5 years, but yeah, that math was all wrong. Did not go to school for math. Yeah. 2007, how long has it been? 14 years?
Yeah.
13.
13?
We're all bad at math. I love it. I'm here. I'm over here counting on my fingers.
Go ahead, Andrew. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I have like a lot of questions or like a lot of statements. 'Cause I think a lot of things you said were very poignant and powerful. The first thing I thought about pertaining to your podcast specifically, I know my friends and I talk about a lot about the differences between the word dreads and the word locks. Do you know, I guess, like the definition of both, or why they're connotated differently?
Yeah, you'll get a lot of different answers from different people. So it's always a good question to ask. I remember my grandfather, actually, he once told me that dreadlocks was a name given to us by white people because they were kind of afraid, when they saw, they were like struck fear. And that's where it came from.
Wow.
It's interesting too, because a lot of people like don't ever call them dreadlocks, but I'm not as harsh on that. I refer to them as locks. Mostly it just kind of grew on me. Like when I started this, I called them dreadlocks, like everything dreadlocks grew up like that as well, because that's like the first way it's introduced to me, not even from white people, from Black people. It's a whole community thing. So
Yeah.
the meaning behind each of the word will differ depending on who you speak to. Like there's people who've had them for like years and years will still call them dreadlocks. But I think the most important part is that the way you kind of perceive them yourselves. As far as the meaning, I can't really go too deep on that, but it's really just, it kind of goes beyond the word and how the word kind of sits with you. So for me, initially dreadlocks, like I actually kind of liked it. I was like, yeah, okay, it strikes fear on you. Okay, you know what? Be a little afraid. Just don't tread on me. Like just move out my way. That's how it was for the most part. But I think like I'm kind of like moving away from that kind of mindset. Because I don't really need people to be afraid of me. Like I just need you to start respecting me. So
Right.
then kind of started adopting the term locks instead. But yeah, but I still kind of honor it, like boss locks. I spell it LOCKS, keep the K in there. Like to have it stand for knowledge of self. But yeah.
That's good. Thank you for answering that. I think that brings like my next question to my next point. I think like I know people who are in my generation and we battle now, just thinking about like wearing our natural hair or wearing the things that are cultural to the parts of our identity to work or to other spaces that would be seen to be, I guess, quote unquote, too much by certain other identities. For example, like my aunt was speaking about her afro. If today she walked in to work with the same afro that she had in high school, I know she would get a lot of looks. I don't know if you haven't seen pictures of her. It was really big. She's
well, if you got pictures, I might need to see them.
Yeah, we want to see that, BJ.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, she probably won't show it to you, but
you should take a picture of it next time you're home, Andrew.
I got you. But it was really big. And I think about like just different aspects of like the culture part of the hair part of our culture. I guess like how would you encourage people of my generation or any generation just in general to not be afraid to show that part of themselves in work or in other spaces that it's usually deviated or usually not encouraged?
That's a good question. That's a really good one. Fear does something is really interesting. Like that, we go walk into a space and be afraid of like, okay, my hair might be too much for them. They might not understand it. And they're going to have a problem with me. Not going to be able to, might get kicked out of class, kicked out of a job, might not get hired, all these things. So to be honest with you, the first thing I'd say is like all these things that you're afraid of can happen. It happens every day. A lot of people. That's part of why this whole Crown Act is such a huge thing, because like we don't even know like the ripple effects from passing that law. But what I would say is that people out here are doing it. They have their natural hair, they have it dyed, they have it long, braided, weaves, like everything. People have all these different hairstyles and they have experienced success as well. So all of this is possible. Like I live in Atlanta, and I can't tell you, that really changed my whole perspective on everything. You see Black people from the bottom to the top with all sorts of different hairstyles, and not just existing there, but really like influencing the whole ecosystem. So, when people say it's not possible, that's like absolutely not true. So that's the first thing I'd say. But also, I would actually kind of challenge everyone to start learning a little bit more about kind of the history and the culture behind hairstyles. We always look at it as like, okay, that's a cool thing. But a lot of these hairstyles, they date back to like way back in ancient African times. Like there are some queens who would have like these elaborate hairstyles, and each hairstyle meant something different. So there's a lot of beauty and kind of like little power to everything as well. And I think the last thing I'd say is like when you walk in, you got a hairstyle that looks like no one else. Like I know it feels good when you get it. When you first step out, you're looking at yourself like, oh, they did a good job with it. I look good. But I think everyone needs to kind of remember that little confidence as well, because when you do step into these spaces where people are kind of looking at you and judging you, you really need to continue to remember like that feeling. So because once you feel like that power, that confidence within you, other people are going to notice that confidence as well. So yeah, they might be afraid of you, they might fear you and all these things, but they're going to step to you a little bit different. I think someone I interviewed once told me, because I always ask my guests like, okay, how do you navigate professionalism and have natural hair at the same time? And she was like, I just walk in strong, strong and confident. They don't say anything to me, like nothing at all.
Right.
So
Wow.
all these things can happen, but I would say if it's something that really matters to you, it's important to you, I say just go ahead and explore it. Worst case scenario, you might have to just like take a different route, might have to pick a different environment, but I think it's better to be more proud of yourself and know that you did things the way you want to do them. Like me personally, there's times in history I wish that I was kind of stepping with a little bit more confidence and everything, because I think things would have, gone a little bit differently. But here I am now with all the wisdom for all the people I've interviewed and all that stuff, and ready to go.
Thank you.
I like what you just said too. I'm writing it down. It's like walk in strong. Just go ahead and wear it and walk in strong. I think I've already mentioned in your episode 30 where you said I see color. I think I want to talk a little bit about that because I don't know. I really like that one.
Yeah. Can I say one last thing? I don't mean to interrupt, but also another thing is like with hair, if people have a problem with their hair, like they might have a problem with you regardless if you have this natural hairstyle or a eccentric hairstyle or not. So if people are going to have a problem with you, they're just going to have a problem with you, and that goes deeper. They may use hair as an excuse, but in all reality, it's probably some internal racism or like unconscious bias they've got going on. That's a lot harder to navigate.
Yeah, several more layers in that. And actually, I'm glad you interrupted, because that's what I was going to kind of talk about, because you talked about on that particular one, and we'll have the link on our for that episode. But you were saying about you were struggling doing that, about talking about the white female wanted to figure out how can she be in that space, and you were saying that you were trying, and I don't want to give it all away, but and I kind of struggling with if you could have the conversation with white folks. Right? Was I interpreting that? Is that how it's feeling that?
Yeah. I don't enjoy it even to this day. I don't really
about you. You were like trying to figure out how do I have this how do I have this race conversation with white folks, and that resonated with me because I'm trying to figure out how do I have this conversation about UN50 with Popo. How am I going to walk in a room, especially with white police officers, to talk to them about black folks and how they feel about you? That's just different.
Yeah, that's a tough.
So kind of tell me, because you got, you talk about your village and everything. So how have you kind of processed, even though it's difficult for you, how are you saying, I gotta be in this space, because white people, our allies, want to, they don't have this lived experience. So how have you come to be able to go, yeah, I can do this. Walt, you can do this. I'm gonna walk in strong. I'm gonna do this. So how have you kind of processed that?
Yeah. I think probably a couple ways. One, I don't like to go out of my way to change people's minds. So I personally am like ready to kind of walk away or just excuse myself from a conversation if I don't really feel like, if I feel like it's like a little too taxing, I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. I'm just going to, fade my way out.
Right.
But also the way I approach boss locks and really everything in life is kind of through perspectives. Like when I first started it out, the main goal is to redefine professionalism. because there's this real negative perception that kind of favored white people, or Eurocentric people, or
Right.
Black people. And so
Mhm.
the whole goal was to prove it, give visuals and everything,
Mhm.
because you can't really ignore visuals. You may choose to publicly ignore it, but that perception is going to be stuck in your head. So I
Mhm.
personally always like to approach things with perspective. I think, like in that example about people wanting to be a part of the whole Black movement and everything, that person in particular, she was asking about how to get involved and do more. Um, I just It's just really important that people truly understand, kind of remove themselves from it. So it's kind of like this interesting dance. Like you got to engage them and be like, okay, yeah, do you understand? Like kind of get them to really show their perspective so you can see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Then you just kind of start to poke holes in it. And then when you have that hole poked, you kind of slide your own perspective in there. Like, oh, okay, what about this way? Have you thought about it like this?
Right.
And not even asking those questions, but really just showing like people's stories and everything, because those are things that people don't forget. So I try to kind of display this perspective that kind of sticks to your mind, and like you may be able to leave, and you might not have your mind changed right then and there, but maybe like a week from now you're still thinking about it.
Right. Right.
So I don't like forcing my way in, but me personally, I kind of admire other people who do like go hard on it. Like, yo, that's dope. But me personally, all about long game perspective changing type of action.
So, but I think what I heard you say was that the perspective, letting people know another perspective, but also I think you may have said it earlier, just talking about stories.
Mm-hmm.
That we hear each other's stories, and if we're in that space, we're going to be hearing each other, just providing those stories and those lived experiences. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, exactly that. I think a lot of like what we've seen in the past year of people starting to finally kind of get it, or it click in a lot of people's heads, is that they got to see the visuals of what people experience. So it's really, in a way, it's like unfortunate, but their stories are kind of being told, like their experiences with police, or their experiences kind of experiencing racism and discrimination. Like you can't ignore it. It's right in front of you.
Yeah.
And at that point, when you have the information, it's like, okay, let's say if I'm a white person kind of being shown all this stuff, I have to make a choice. Like, one, do I acknowledge, like consciously acknowledge that, okay, yes, this is happening.
Yeah.
But I don't experience it in my own life, but okay, I see it. So it must be true for them.
Right.
I don't know why they're experiencing this when I'm experiencing this. That's a problem. That's what like a person who's open to change and wants to actually do something about it, that's how they process it. So it kind of just starts with the story. And then from there, something that someone can relate to, even if they will not relate to, but understand.
Exactly.
More.
So tell me a little bit more about, because you do you post on your Facebook, but you really try to push the conversations for Black entrepreneurs. You kind of help. I post some stuff sometimes out there with you, and I don't do it often, but I pay attention to what you post. You really are trying to help Black entrepreneurs just have a space to be able to be Black entrepreneurs. Right. And so what is it that's a running theme for? Are you seeing what am I looking for? Some same issues, or what is it that they're finding that they're struggling with to be authentic in their business, or they're having difficulty because they're Black entrepreneurs? I mean, what is it that you have the work that you're doing, trying to bring this world together for Black entrepreneurs? What are you finding that is a running theme, that's an issue that they struggle with, or we struggle with, actually?
I like that because we're all in this together. Even if like me personally, even if I'm like at this stage, I could still, it's important that we all know where each other are. Because I grew up playing soccer, and like one thing with soccer, like you may be the best player on the team, but if your other players aren't as strong, that's where the bar is at. You may be up here, but if your other players here, that's where you're at. So I think, and with that, it's really different for everyone. But I think a lot of people, and this actually kind of got me into all this, but a lot of people, they kind of understand their craft, they understand what they're interested in, but there's a lot of other parts of business that they don't know as much about. Right. And one thing that, you always hear about with Black businesses is customer service and marketing. Those are like the two things that people always kind of lack on, if they do lack. So what I am doing is, one, just trying to start to let people like kind of get into their head that these things are possible, to kind of get to a point where you're no longer relying on your job. You can really start taking that side hustle and make more money from it,
Right.
and eventually flip it into something.
Yeah.
And also, my goal is to really create support systems, because things like customer service, they're problems because people just don't fully understand it. Like, yeah, it's good to greet people and all these things, but there's a lot of like other things that happen before you just be like, yeah, go greet people, that have to
Yeah.
be in place before you can really succeed. So my goal is really to, one, encourage people to push a little harder with the entrepreneurship, but also have people who, they're killing in their business, they're doing well, but kind of have them come to the table as well to help kind of create that support system. So that's a little in the works now, but the main goal is just to give people options. Like, that's my whole goal with everything. Let people know that there's options. You could choose to explore natural hair. You could choose to explore entrepreneurship. You don't have to be just stuck to this one thing.
Right. Right. And you know what? I appreciate that. The support is huge. I don't know whether you used it, but we, the Small Business Administration and stuff, folks like that. And because a lot of the information is free. And when I talk to other folks or other Black folks that I know that are starting a business, I'm like, here's some free information over here. This is like, I talk about them all the time. The ones here in North Carolina, I got a counselor and I could call her anytime. It didn't cost me a thing in trying to figure out how to start my business, what I needed to do, the things to get the steps done. And that support, you've been doing your business or in it for 2007. So, I mean, you're full of wisdom, man. Because I told you when I first met you, I was like, man, this guy is smooth. He's got his podcast, you were just, you were doing it really well. And you were an example of, okay, that's what I need to do. That's how I should prepare for a podcast and stuff like that. So yeah, I think what you're doing for Black entrepreneurs is huge, and having a space for all of us to have somewhere to be able to speak freely and you can see what everybody else is going through. So my hat's off to you for that. Somebody has asked me to ask you, have you ever been profiled by law enforcement simply because of your locks, you think? Do you feel like that has ever happened to you?
Yeah, of course.
Ooh, he said that like, yeah, it's like,
I mean,
you were like, you kidding me? I have. Yeah. Okay, well, go ahead. I'm just messing.
That's actually really interesting. I don't know why, but it just made me think of, have you seen the show Lovecraft Country?
I've heard of it, but I've not watched it.
I have, yeah, I know what you're talking
about.
That Andrew said he's watched it.
That show is amazing. It's weird, super weird. Everything you hear about it is true.
Is that the one that was on HBO?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see it?
That's the one that came out too? Maybe
there's a show on HBO called Watchmen, which not the same thing, but that's another one I'd recommend. And kind of
these
applies.
People were like in a house. They moved to like California, and they were being harassed by their neighbors.
Oh,
no, that's another one. Which one is that one?
That's
Lena Waithe.
No.
That's Them.
Damn. Yeah, I haven't seen that
series.
one.
Was it a series?
Yes.
Yeah, Amazon, right?
Yes, that's what it was. Okay, so I've not seen Lovecraft Country. Okay, all right.
Okay, but you saw them?
Yeah, I saw them. I had to turn it off. I have a low tolerance for stuff like that. Like when I went to go see that Jordan Peele movie, was it Us?
Yes, I saw that one. Yeah. We saw that together. Yeah, that's the one you didn't come with me.
I'm sorry. I stood her up because I took a nap. I'm sorry, but I did see it. And when I tell you, I went out to like dinner afterwards, and every single white person I saw was like, so I know better. Like if I watch too much of that stuff, especially when it's like kind of has like a sci-fi feel to it, but you also know that it's possible. My anxiety can't take it.
I feel that. I really do.
What do you want to say about Lovecraft Country though, specifically?
Sorry.
Yeah, so Lovecraft Country. Well, I don't like spoilers, but basically,
you go ahead because I forgot to.
I'm not gonna watch it. Yeah, there's this lady.
No, go ahead. Do what you got to do.
All right. Well, there's this lady who.
So it's fine.
Yeah, this lady who got this basically potion that allowed her to experience being a white lady for a day.
Oh.
And there was this experience she had. At first she was confused because she didn't realize what was happening. So she was kind of stumbling around. This is like back in like the 50s or 70s or something like that. And she was kind of stumbling around, lost and confused. And some cops showed up, and at first she started freaking out. I was like, "Oh man, I'm out here like being wild. Cops are gonna get me." But the cops are like, came up to her, "Are you okay, ma'am? Is this boy bothering you?" And all these things. And they kind of gave her like that Chick-fil-A level of customer service, helped her get
No,
back
he
home
didn't
and all
say
this
Chick-fil-A
thing.
level, but
Oh
go
yeah,
ahead.
they pulled all the stops. I thought they're gonna give her cucumber water too, but they just they really went kind of above and beyond. And I remember watching, I was like, "Oh, like that's what they do. That's kind of like the whole protect and serve and protect thing the cop's supposed to do."
Right.
So that just popped in my head because like when you asked about if I had been racial profiled, like I feel like it's like that's just a thing. That's what everyone gets. It's like, "Oh, you turned 7, congratulations, you just got racially profiled, like here's your badge or something." It's just a thing that happens with Black
finally
people.
arrived.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So I will say I'm very grateful. I've never had anything like horrible happen to me. Definitely blessed, but plenty of times, you just stopped, might be pulled over or something. The most wildest part was once I had this, your first car isn't always a car you want, but I was driving this minivan and I got pulled over, and the cop was like, "Oh yeah, there's been reports of minivans like these being stolen." I was like, "Oh, for real?"
Yeah.
this
Oh
this is a car that's being stolen everywhere. Okay. So
no.
it's just like these, I don't even know how to describe them, but it's just like this. It's all unnecessary too. It's like you're not only wasting my time and kind of ruining my day. You're kind of wasting your own time too. I don't know why you're not bothering me, but
Right.
yeah, definitely been profiled. Have not been to jail or arrested or anything like that. So cross my fingers. Knock on
Knock
wood.
on wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So do you have kids?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, not yet. Not
No,
yet.
no.
But
And the reason I was because I mean, with being a Black male with locks and kids, and just kind of wondering what kind of conversations, if they were old enough to, for you to have like talk or something like that, especially how they show up, or relatives or young Black males in your life, as to how you help them navigate that. If they've got locks and stuff, how are you helping them navigate this world during this moment?
Oh, I just think the most important part is just to. That's a good question, actually, because I think a lot of people struggle with this. I was in this clubhouse room, and it was just some conversation about kind of health and wellness, and one of the speakers kind of stopped for a second because her son saw this commercial for Black Lives Matter, and she was kind of nervous because she's like, "Oh man, like it's time now. It's time. I got to really like explain all this stuff. Where do I start and everything like that?" And that's a really good one. I think for me, like the most important thing is just kind of be real with some things. Obviously don't have to be super graphic, but I let people know that there's going to be people going to have a problem with you. It's not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. I think that's the biggest part, because a lot of people feel like, "Oh, something wrong with me because I'm Black." But there's nothing wrong with you. These are the things that might happen. And this is how you kind of prepare yourself. And that's why I really, really love what you're doing, because I feel like you really help people with that preparation side, especially when it comes with dealing with the police, because anything can go wrong, and even if you do everything right, things can still go wrong, but at least you are as prepared as you can be.
Yeah.
So I think the most important part is just speaking to especially like young kids, because anything could like just set off some ripple effect, but just really just letting them know that they're great, they're dope, who they are is amazing. People may find it strange, but that's not a reflection on you. That's a reflection on them. That's their own insecurities kind of speaking out. So tough conversations to have, but I think like kids, they understand a lot more than we think they do.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of for me, and I appreciate those kind words. Is that the fact that the kids today, that's so old to say kids today, but anyway, kids today, that they're having to deal with this. I did a presentation several years ago, and I think he might have been eight, and he was like, "Why are they just shooting Black people?" And the first thing that hit me, I didn't say it out loud, but the first thing was like, why is this 8-year-old having to deal with this?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
he's 8 years old. And again, if he was 8, because he was a little thing, I'm not sure if he was even 8. And I was just, it's just, having that and then piled on top of that, things that you're talking about, how we show up, how he shows up at school, or the teacher's looking at him because he's got locks in his hair, or she's dyed her hair, or she's got, colorful, it's just extra. And
It is.
And so you doing your work and trying to just help folks, young folks, especially because God, I can't. It was a young woman one of the ones, and I think she taught swimming. It was one of your earlier
Coach
podcasts.
Taj Omari. Yeah, shout out to her. She actually has this partnership with this kind of swim cap and everything, but she's doing some really dope stuff here in Atlanta.
Yeah, and I was thinking about when I was listening to her, and the stereotypical is Black folks don't swim.
Mm-hmm.
But here she is on your podcast talking about she teaching swimming.
Right.
So it's just so much that Black people have to just, it's bad enough, putting aside law enforcement, all this other stuff, stereo concepts or perceptions of Black folks that we've got to just, no, we can do that. Yeah, we could go hiking. Yeah, it's just a lot, and it's just a lot. And I'm, Harmony, I'm just tired. And I want to say tired.
I was going to say something real messed up. I was going to say, well, at least you're like almost done. Like you're on the way out.
I'm so
You know what? And I will accept that from you. But you're right. I'm like, but and the way I take that is at some point, I'm not going to do what I'm doing. At some point, people like you guys, the three of you who are younger than I, because it's time to pass the baton, to Walter and Harmony. Because it's time for some of us old folks. It's time for us to sit down. It's a new day, it's and we got to, but also we got to figure out. I really hate to say, I cannot remember the Attorney General for Obama. Who was the Attorney General for Obama? What was his name?
I don't remember yesterday, so.
Okay. Anyway, they did and Walt, I don't know whether you looked at it, but Obama did a webinar or virtual town, and he was on it. His somebody help me out here. Somebody Google the Attorney General doing Obama. What's his name? Eric what? Holder. During the virtual thing, he was saying something to the effect, and I'm going to be paraphrasing it, basically talking about youth. He was saying there's, this little bit of a discord among old folks and the young folks, millennials, right? And basically he's saying, we, being me, don't have to drive the car anymore.
Baby, yeah, y'all need to get out the driver's seat immediately.
We need, and I'm okay with that because we're tired of driving. But the thing is, we need to be in the car because we know where the bumps are.
Well,
now,
I think you do need to be in the car, but there was this tweet that I saw the other day that was like, it's amazing that majority of the people that are running our country are above 70 and are also the ones that are not impacted by it. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, what he was trying to say is, as far as Black, we need to be in the car to at least be able to say, I know where the bumps are. Because I have been working because of the John Lewis's and the Martin Luther Kings, I was able to get inside this system that you're now trying to figure out how to fix. So I've been in the system, so I know how it runs, and I can tell you, I can give you some guidance as you're driving along to make the change. And we got to do it together, and at least respect the wisdom of the elders who've been out here doing this stuff, but are tired of driving. We just need you at least to have us at the table to be able to say, you know what? You can do this with the popo. You can go in the building and tell your police chief, I expect this kind of training for my officers. I expect you to really try to hire more, however, whatever that looks like for your community. You can do that. I know that as somebody that's been in the system. So we're always, basically he was just saying, you guys need to drive, but we also need to we can be in the back seat. But every now and then we need to go, you might not want to do that or either do it this way. I don't know whether that makes sense. And I was like, yeah, because I need to go sit down. We'll all of us at some point sit down and pass the baton, because it's just a lot of work, Walter. It's just, the work that you're doing and giving platform and voices to Black entrepreneurs is in this moment right now, I think it's exciting.
It
I think it's
is.
exciting for Black entrepreneurs right now because everybody want to buy Black right now. I mean, I don't know. I'm just on the outside looking in. It's like somebody Black selling something. I mean, we had a Black, I don't know whether you guys saw, they had a Black farmers market, Harmony, and it was wrapped around the corner, and most of the people in line were white folks. And it's like, it's our moment, and we need to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's
the shadow ban on Instagram for Black businesses.
wow. They keep shadow banning. It's like,
and like I kind of thought it was like BS, but somebody actually like showed it on their like Instagram, like how it was blocking them, so like showing you how to take it off. But they were basically telling like Black entrepreneurs or Black small businesses that they needed to not identify themselves as Black businesses because Instagram was basically like,
wow, I hadn't heard
not
that.
taking off their content, but was not promoting their content at the same rate that they were like white.
Had you heard that, Walter?
not that directly, but I've seen examples of that. So yeah, that's interesting, Harmon. I didn't realize it was like that deep, but yeah, it's like yeah, all these people like do a lot of performing. The people lining up at the farmers market, they perform.
Right.
Instagram performs, Twitter performs, Facebook does.
Yeah.
All out here. Like it's interesting too, because like Facebook, Instagram, they have their little Black Lives Matter section. Well, they'll definitely highlight a few people. I think people who already got things going for them. But then I guess people like who you were talking about, Harmony, who like they're still trying to come up and everything. They're just like, you don't need to be here, or no, it's not appropriate. Market as sensitive content, even though it's just some people smiling and stuff like that. So yeah, these apps do a lot to they just do a lot to, keep people down. Yeah.
It was I saw something on, I think it was a comment shortly after the holiday Juneteenth was officially about the holiday. I saw someone was like, now don't y'all go out to Walmart buying Juneteenth t-shirts. It was like, find a Black entrepreneur selling Juneteenth t-shirts because they've just made a holiday and folks are going to make money off of that. And then they're going to be folks that don't look like you and me.
Right.
It looked like, and I was like, God, that was so profound that person said that, because that is so true. They've just created a holiday to sell us our stuff. And we got to figure out how to, go to and patronize Black entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Support.
It's interesting. I feel like I sound pessimistic maybe on this show, but I do have like an optimistic mindset. And like, I just all of a sudden started thinking like, okay, it actually does present an interesting opportunity. Not that I'm applauding Instagram or anything like that. Actually, it's not like they provided it, but I think one thing that people get wrong with businesses is just relying too much on the I'm a Black business type of thing. So I think it puts you in a position where you got to be creative. Like even with like Instagram and all these other things, like Instagram is just really one platform. So popular one, but that's just one way to get your stuff out there. So it just prevents some like opportunity to get creative and go about things differently.
Yeah, I hope that there are some Black creators that, I don't know, maybe create a different type of platform for people of color. Not to say that like other types of people can't be on there, but I don't know, I'm really excited with the amount of young people that are coming up with like coding knowledge. Not like when I used to code on my MySpace for like my top 8 and put like a song and like calling emojis, but like people that can actually create apps. I'm not, tech savvy, but I'd be really interested to see what people could create for Black people that just want to be Black without having to worry about a fucking shadow ban. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's an app now for Black, like small Black owners. I think it's called Miria. It's like MIIRYA. But it's like basically it's like what is it? It's like an Amazon. Imagine Amazon, but solely Black entrepreneurs and Black businesses.
Oh, nice.
You said Miriam?
It's like I think it's called Miria. It's like MIIRYA.
I have to look that up. Have y'all heard of Fanbase?
Yes, I have.
Yes, that one's it's like, I don't think the founder would describe it this way, but it's kind of like Instagram and Clubhouse combined. It's like definitely resembles Instagram, but then has the like very big on like the audio chat feature as well. But that's Started by Isaac Hayes' grandson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's based in Atlanta. I forgot y'all in Atlanta, but it's based out of Atlanta. So yeah, but no, I feel you. Definitely feel you. It's interesting. Like I think there's a lot more emphasis on like STEM and people coding. There's this lady, I think her name is Tara Reid, and her whole business. She's a Black woman with locks, actually, really high up and everything. But she has this. Her whole business is helping people learn to code.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's with apps and all of these things. So yeah, I think that's
Mhm.
about to be part of the trend. Really, is no longer kind of relying on these, and plus, like social media, like these apps are still new as well. So like in a few years, there's definitely going to be more and more players in the game anyway.
Right.
So
Right.
people who can get in there, get in
Get
there now.
in,
It's definitely
right.
going to be a cool playing field later.
Right.
For
Cool.
sure.
Yeah.
So Walter, what kind of words of wisdom can you give to, some of my listeners who may be thinking about starting their own business or showing up authentically where they work? So, I mean, I'd like for you to kind of leave us with, the Walt wisdom for entrepreneurs and just showing up authentically as they move through whatever spaces they're going to move through.
Yeah. So I'm actually, that's a good question. I started to really kind of pivot what I'm doing. It's still kind of the same thing, but this whole new kind of emphasis, and emphasis is
Mhm.
going to be on growth. In fact, the show is still going to be called Boss Locks, but the tagline's now the story of new growth. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, new growth is kind of inspired by, the natural hair journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the
I
locks,
like it, man. That's awesome. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So
I
it's
like
really
it.
just all about embracing that the quote unquote ugly and embarrassing phases that come with growth and everything like that. Like
Mm,
for I don't know, for anyone watching it may not understand, but like, when black hair grows out, like I have locks, but it doesn't just grow into locks, it grows like, regular hair right now. It's not that bad right now, so you can't see it, but usually it's a little fuzzy and things like that. And for a lot
Right.
of people, they usually rush to kind of hide it, cover it up until it's like picture perfect Instagram worthy. But I'm really pushing people to start embracing everything, not really just calling it the ugly phase, but really just be like, yo, this is new growth. This is
That-
signs of it growing. The
right.
same with entrepreneurship. Like a lot of things start ugly. People fail. I've started a business in 2016 and that definitely did not go well. So like people fail all the time, but they get so hung up on these like failure moments, but really just like some beautiful moments to learn and just go harder at it again. So I think I would just say embrace it all, embrace the ugliness, just go ahead and
Yeah.
start it, do it. Because you really never know what just consistency, what applying pressure to yourself and all
Yes.
that stuff will do. Like your whole
Yes.
world could change.
Yeah.
It's like a matter of time. So
Wow. I love that. I mean, it's growth is not pretty. And not all the time. And it really is. What is the other thing that people say too? It's not really about how you got knocked down, is how you get up and keep it moving.
exactly.
So just keep it moving. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I like that, the growth part of your business. I think you're absolutely right, because people don't realize it. And you doing the work that you do as far as because doing a business or doing the work that you've been doing is not easy, and some days it's not pretty, but you got to keep it moving. If it's
Definitely not pretty.
yeah, but if it's if that's in your spirit and that's what your journey is supposed to be about, then and stay in focus. So thank you very much for that. So thanks for joining us, Walter. I really appreciate it. Andrew, do you have anything to say? Anything you want to say to Walter before we sign out?
I'm trying to think. Some of the points that I think that stuck out to me and that related to something that I've heard of in the past. About like the things that you mentioned about showing up authentically. I think is very powerful, especially with people who like are my generation. I think, like I mentioned to you earlier, about how the conversation about showing up with natural hair in various spaces that you have can be a deterrent for like parts of our identity just in general. And I think who said it was Shirley Chisholm, but basically she said there's like not a seat at the table, then you bring a folding chair. And I think that like that those 2 points, the her point and then also what you're doing and the work that you're doing, those two connect in my head. So I really appreciate the thing that you're doing and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Appreciate
Harmony,
that.
got anything?
I mean, when I think about authenticity, because I think about that a lot and like how I can be more authentic in my daily life, I think about the willingness to just be curious. I think a lot of times we find ourselves in these situations of things that we were supposed to like, whether that was like a sport that we got into when we were super little or a hobby that we picked up that we liked at one point. And I think that what prevents people in a lot of ways from showing up authentically is that they stop being curious about who they are. Something that I've been saying to myself for this last year is that like every day I'm becoming more myself and I'm curious and getting to know what it is that I need to show up authentically, or what it is that I need to be seen or to feel heard. And so I just hope that, you know, everybody can, I don't know, just be a little bit more curious about themselves and be okay with knowing that we're ever changing and evolving, and we don't ever have to be this one finite person or thing or profession. That you always have the ability to evolve, and who you were yesterday doesn't mean that that's who you'll be, you know, tomorrow or even the next day.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
so
you
true.
for that. And one more thing, Walter, say that again. You get ready to add. What are you going to add on to Boss Locks? Is what? What's the growth?
Story of new growth.
The story of
Yeah.
new growth. I
Like,
love it.
It's
I love it.
yeah, I'm really excited about what's next. Like the stories, like I mentioned before, I haven't really done anything with podcasting since like May or April, but
Right.
there's like like 20, I think, different interviews I've had with people, and like just hearing their stories and kind of the things they've been through and the things they're
Yeah.
doing now is like really amazing. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to kind of get all these out there. It's some really interesting stuff. Like I got to speak with this lady who's like leading this whole peaceful nuclear movement in South Africa. Like that's what she
Oh,
does for a living.
wow. Wow.
It's really a lot of interesting people out there. So that's another thing besides like hair and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like we're really out here doing some dope things all around the world. All around the
Exactly.
world. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
make sure that you know, obviously we'll, you know, stay connected and everything, and we'll make sure that we help push your stuff out there when you make that. Is that like official, or you not? Is it official yet, or you started it yet?
Started what
Your piece, yeah, the growth piece of your Boss Locks Entrepreneur, your podcast.
It's y'all are like the first to hear it, I guess. Yeah.
Okay,
Y'all the
so
first to hear it. World premiere.
I love it. Yeah, we'll make sure we that we have the links that we did, whatever we need to have. So when we do this podcast, we'll have so people can connect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're gonna have to actually, I would love to have all three of y'all back on for like I don't know if we didn't talk about it, but the holding cops accountable part 2. Well, definitely got to have a part 2. The part 1 was amazing, and would actually really, really love to have you, Andrew, you, Harmony on there as well, just to kind of lend your voices, because like I really love like the whole dynamic of this show, like actually listen to and everything. So I love what y'all are doing and love to kind of continue this too. So definitely gonna work together some more.
Thank you, Walter. That means a lot. So we're gonna go ahead and thank Walter. Boss Locks. We'll have the links for him so you can check out his podcast and everything. The one that we have, the link for his episode 30th. I See Color. For me, it kind of gives you a really good idea who he is and what he's about. But we'll have the link so you can listen in on his podcast. So thank you, Walter. Walt.
Thank you.
Gaynor number 2. I appreciate it. As always, thank everyone for those of you that listen to me often and those of you that may have listened to us for the first time. Thank you for the support. And as always, stay safe, stay well, peace.